All right, I had a little moment while contributing to my investments earlier today. So as you guys know, I'm really excited about silver mining stocks taking a dip, right? And I was thinking about my microeconomics professor, and the reason I thought about him, you'll understand in a second. So I took microeconomics with Dr. Stephen Klepper at Carnegie Mellon University. This was back in 2002. And he used to love to run these experiments in the classroom. He would have the whole class trading a fictional commodity and showing what could happen if there were price gouging, or if supply or demand curves changed, and what the effect on the market would be. So he would set up, some of us would be buyers, some of us would be sellers, and he would conduct a trading floor, right? Somebody wants to sell 3 units for $8. Who wants to buy 3 units for $8? Sold! And then he would say, at the end of the experiment, when nobody was trading, he would say 5 more seconds to make trades. And then he would count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I thought that was the funniest thing I ever heard a professor say, because you gotta understand, he was really famous, and for him to be on the stage saying 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I just thought it was really silly. But at the same time, that's what I remembered him for, right? Now, a year later, I happened to walk by a classroom, and he has a very loud, sharp voice. You could hear him from down the hall, and I heard the familiar 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I just broke out laughing about that. And then it occurred to me, how long has he been saying this stuff? So I was reading a paper on economics from CMU one time, and I figured this guy probably graduated many, many years ago. So I decided to email him and talk about all the fun experiments I had with Dr. Klepper. And I said, by the way, do you remember his economics experiments? And this guy said, yes, I remember that. And I asked him, do you remember what he would say at the end of the trading session? He said, oh, yeah, he would count down from 5. And I was like, when did you take this course? He took it in 1986. I took it in 2002. And then I found a friend of mine who was taking it at the time that I was reading this paper. This would have been in the early 20-teens. And I asked my friend, does he still say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1? And sure enough, my friend said, yeah, he still says it. And so when we combined all the stories together, he had been saying 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 for at least a quarter of a century, possibly more, right? And then I started to think about all the times he said 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, what was going on. And then it occurred to me, well, in 1986, the Challenger exploded. The year after I took the course, Columbia exploded. In between that, we had the Berlin Wall, we had 9/11, we had Y2K, and during that whole time, he was saying 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now, the reason I thought about my economics professor was that today, during my lunch break at work, I wanted to take another look at silver mining stocks to see if they had dipped. Now, I live on the West Coast, so the markets close at 1:30 Pacific time, and I had just gotten off from lunch break at 1:20, and I really wanted to make sure I bought into the silver mining stocks today. They had taken a beating, and I was hurrying to click all the buttons. We had a rather weak Wi-Fi connection at the tutoring center where I worked, and as I was doing that, I could just hear my economics professor saying 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. But I got the order in place, and it gave me a nice warm fuzzy feeling about my microeconomics professor. And unfortunately, I wanted to see if he was still saying 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, but I discovered he passed away a few years ago, and it said in his biography that he was still teaching up until his last days. I wonder what it's like to go into a classroom and to hear that your instructor had passed away over the weekend. I can't imagine dealing with that, but I wonder if during the last 5 seconds of his life, he thought about 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 because he had been really famous for it. And I even I remember talking to him about that we discovered that he had been saying it for a quarter of a century, and he told me whatever works, right? Because he has a good career, so whatever works for him, he'll continue doing that.